Wealth is not simply counted in dollars or cents, but in the time we spend with love, in love, giving love. Wealth is not simply a means to an end. It is the means to live out loud. Wealth is more than money. It's about family, the memories you create, the legacy you leave behind, and your ability to enjoy life in the moment. It's also about seeing the QMAX possibilities and seizing investment opportunities to achieve the future you want and deserve. Which is why QMAX Wealth will focus on your investments so you can experience more. Because true wealth is truly more. To start investing today, call 876-926-7767.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments. The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Welcome back to CBX Business News. We begin with Jamaica's energy future. Climate volatility is forcing Jamaica and the wider Caribbean to confront a hard energy reality that resilience now matters as much as sustainability. Speaking at CAF's International Economic Forum earlier this week, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Aubin Hill, says repeated climate shocks are exposing the limits of the region's current energy systems. He argued that renewables alone cannot yet provide the reliability required to power modern economies.
Our energy arrangement is out of whack. Yes, we have lots of sunshine, but you don't have the PSI, the power to drive turbines that have to start at a very high PSI to get the engines running. So we are still going to be linked with fossil fuel for a while. How do we make that better, cleaner, and more efficient, and which part of the fossil fuel arrangement we look at?
More significantly, Hill confirmed that Jamaica is now evaluating all future energy options, including small nuclear technology.
We go from heavy diesel fuel right up to when small nuclear plants become available, because that's what we're going to have to look at, and we're taking that very seriously.
That was Jamaica's Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Aubin Hill. United Oil and Gas, UOG, has formally begun offshore survey operations on Jamaica's Walton Morant license, moving from mobilization into active data acquisition as efforts to de-risk the basin accelerate. The company says it is seeking to directly test what it believes is growing evidence of an active petroleum system both onshore and offshore. UOG Business Technical Manager Paul Ryan says Jamaica already has a proven hydrocarbon history with multiple wells and documented oil seeps across the island.
We know from both onshore and offshore that there's a lot of evidence currently. There's a lot out there already. Um, there's 11 wells that have been drilled to date. I think the last of those was drilled in 1982, so a while ago
They're
now.
all onshore, or is there any offshore?
There's 2 that have been drilled offshore. 9 have been drilled onshore, and of them all of them have had some evidence for the presence of migrated hydrocarbons in them. So that's a positive.
He says onshore live oil seeps have been identified at multiple locations across Jamaica.
Beyond that, there's a lot of seeps, either in core or directly from the surface. So in 3 locations onshore, there's already been oil typed found at the side of the road or certain locations, and that has been tested and found to be of thermogenic origin. So they're seeps, and so there's 3 across the island, both east and west, and also in the center of the island.
That was Business Technical Manager for United Oil and Gas, Paul Ryan. And in economic data this evening, producer-level price pressures in Jamaica eased at the end of 2025 as falling manufacturing costs offset continued weakness in the mining sector. According to the Statistical Institute of Jamaica Statin, the producer price index for manufacturing declined by 0.6% in December, driven largely by a 4% drop in refined petroleum products. That decline was partially cushioned by a 0.2% increase in food, beverages, and tobacco, the largest weighted component of the manufacturing index, limiting the overall fall in producer prices. Meanwhile, prices in the mining and quarrying sector were largely unchanged during the month, with both bauxite and other mining activities recording negligible movements, signaling short-term stability. On a year-over-year basis, however, the contrast is sharper. Mining and quarrying prices plunged 42.8% between December 2024 and December 2025. This reflects a steep 44.4% decline in bauxite and alumina prices, underscoring ongoing challenges in Jamaica's extractive industries. By comparison, manufacturing prices rose 2.4% over the year, supported by higher food prices, though gains were restrained by lower petroleum costs. Turning now to financial news. Cargo Handlers Limited delivered stronger earnings in the 2025 financial year despite a challenging operating environment. In its annual report for the year under review, the logistics company reported net profit of $238.7 million, up from $227.4 million the previous year. Revenue rose to $817.8 million, driven by higher cargo volumes and steady demand for port and logistics services. Operating expenses also increased, reflecting higher labor and fuel costs. However, management says cost controls helped protect margins. Earnings per stock unit also improved to 64 cents when compared with 73 cents the year before, reflecting tighter conditions across the sector. Meanwhile, the company maintained a strong balance sheet with shareholders' equity climbing to $1.36 billion. Cargo Handlers says it remains focused on operational efficiency, service reliability, and long-term growth opportunities at the port of Montego Bay. We move to the latest updates from the JSE equities. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 112 stocks, of which 53 advanced, 44 declined, and 15 traded firm. Today's winners are Jamaica Public Service Company 9.5%, Sagicor Real Estate X Fund, Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances, and G West Corporation ordinary shares, while leading the losers are Productive Business USD ordinary shares, Knutsford Express Services, Paramount Trading Jamaica, and Caribbean Assurance Brokers. The main index advanced by 620.92 points to close at 346,437.16 points. The junior market index advanced by 24.93 points to close at 3,390.30 points.
And it's time for Market Education Feature, brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standard.
In today's Market Education Feature, we're looking at natural capital. Natural capital describes the Earth's stock of water, land, air, and both renewable and non-renewable resources, including plants, animals, forests, and minerals. The concept extends the economic idea of capital by recognizing that nature, like other forms of capital, generates ongoing flows of valuable goods and services. Through the interaction of its components, natural capital supports a wide range of benefits for humans and other species. These combined benefits are known as ecosystem goods and services, or ecosystem services. They are essential to survival and human well-being and underpin all economic activity.
The Market Education Feature was brought to you by CARICRIS, Regional Ratings, Global Standards.
And that's it for the local news segment. Please stay with us. The regional news is up next.
The local news is brought to you by Darriman Trading, better from the start. Development Bank of Jamaica, facilitating economic growth and development. Caribbean flavors and fragrances, tease the senses, and Pulse Investments.
Caribbean flavors and fragrances. It started out as a small family-owned business, and now we're a part of a large group of companies. Being listed on the stock exchange allows us a certain prestige. It also speaks to accountability and transparency. We had some fears about getting our information in the public domain, but once we contacted the Jamaica Stock Exchange, who have the knowledge and the experience to guide us, we were comfortable with getting into the process. If you have any doubts about being listed, just give the Jamaica Stock Exchange a call. They'll be very happy to take you through the process and also provide you with information that you may need. Make that call now.
Welcome back. And now for the regional business news. Barbados is projected to deliver continued economic expansion in 2026, with real GDP expected to grow between 2.5% and 3%. Looking beyond the near term, Central Bank Governor Dr. Kevin Greenidge has set a medium-term growth ambition of 3.5%. He made the revelation on Wednesday during an update on the country's economic performance for 2025.
Real GDP is expected to expand between 2.5% and 3% in 2026, and then edge up in a medium-term growth rate of 3.5% given the current conditions. Now, that growth trajectory is largely underpinned by continued expansion in tourism, in business and other services, and in construction, both in private and public sector.
He says inflation is also expected to ease further, settling within a range of 1% to 2%.
So we expect for this year, 2026, the moving average rate of inflation in 12 months to be closer to the 1, and then settle towards 2% or 2.5% in the medium term. Lower global commodity prices, including energy prices, could dampen international price pressures as we import those. And from a domestic perspective, we got heightened increased demand. We see putting other pressures on particular services which could moderate the inflation rate upward.
That was Governor for the Central Bank of Barbados, Dr. Kevin Greenidge. Antigua and Barbuda's economy is expanding at a rapid pace, driven by a sharp rise in tourism and higher incomes. Speaking during a consultation on Thursday, Prime Minister Gaston Brown says recent projections point to growth estimated at $7 billion within the next 2 years.
The economy is growing rapidly. Per capita income is increasing. It's now up to $22,000 per head. The economy has grown within the last decade from about 3.6 billion to 6 billion today. And the projections for the next 2 years would be continuous growth. So within the next 2 years, we expect to get up to about 7 billion. Now, the economy is driven largely by tourism growth, both in overnight arrivals as well as cruise tourism arrivals. In fact, within the last 10 years, we would have experienced significant growth in the cruise tourism sector to the extent that this year we would have about 1 million tourists, cruise tourism tourists, and that represents almost 100% increase compared to the average dating back to maybe about 10 years ago. So again, we are seeing significant growth. And as we continue to build out the cruise tourism infrastructure, we believe that within the next 5 years, we will get up to between 1.5 million to 2 million tourists a year.
That was Prime Minister of Antigua and Barbuda, Gaston Brown. In other news, Guyana's 2026 budget is absorbing hundreds of billions of dollars in existing subsidies and tax measures as the government doubles down on price stability, food security, and household income support. President Dr. Irfan Ali says zero-rated VAT on key food items, fertilizers, agrochemicals, and farming equipment remains in place.
We remove VAT on machinery and equipment used by farmers used in mining. Reverse the 220% increase in D&I charges and a 600% increase in land rental that was imposed upon farmers by the then APNU AFC government. So we have demonstrated in all of our budgets and all our policies strategies that are focused heavily on reducing costs and delivering greater goods and services to our people. Budget 2026 carry on this tradition.
That was Guyana's President, Dr. Irfan Ali. It's now time for news from the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 22 securities, of which 3 advanced, 7 declined, and 12 traded firm. Today's winners are the West Indian Tobacco Company, One Caribbean Media, and Republic Financial Holdings, while leading the losers are Angostura Holdings, Trinidad and Tobago NGL, Massey Holdings, and First Citizens Group Financial Holdings. Trading activity resulted in the following movements. The All-TNT Index declined by 10.30 points to close at 1,384.49. The Composite Index declined by 5.36 points to close at 946.60. The Cross-Listed Index remained at 66.83. The SME Index remained at 92.68. And we take a short break, but please do stay with us. The international news segment is up next.
So much book you need for high school?
I'll show you how to make sure you have all the money for my books
and even some extra. It's called budgeting, Dad. Making a budget is the most important thing you can do to track your money. It keeps a record of how much you make, how much you spend, where you spend it, and most importantly, how much you can save. Write down all your income, write down all your expenses, see where you can cut down and allot more money to more important things, like saving.
We get the big contract. 50,000 units a month for 3 years. Great. Won't need help.
If you are a business owner that requires capital for the expansion of your business, talk to a registered broker today to find out more about listing your company on the Jamaica Stock Exchange, an efficient alternative to other financing options.
Thank God for the Jamaica Stock Exchange Junior Market.
The Jamaica Stock Exchange, providing a fair, efficient, and transparent stock market.
Welcome back. In international news, Colombia's central bank has raised its policy interest rate by 100 basis points to 10.25%, underscoring renewed concern about inflation pressures. The January decision was sharply divided. 4 board members backed the hike, 2 voted for a 50 basis point cut, and 1 favored holding rates steady. The Central Bank of Colombia says headline inflation eased slightly in December to 5.1%, but core inflation rose to 5.02%, while inflation expectations jumped sharply. Analysts now see inflation at 6.4% by end 2026, with market-based expectations remaining above 6%. The bank estimates GDP growth of 2.9% in 2025, with the current account deficit at 2.4% of GDP. From central banks, we move to commodities, where volatility is driving sharp price moves. Silver prices plunged more than 25% to around $84 an ounce after hitting a record $122 just a day earlier. The sell-off was driven by heavy profit-taking as traders rapidly unwound speculative positions following the sharp rally. Despite the correction, silver remained up more than 30% for the month, supported by a softer U.S. dollar, tight physical supply, and strong industrial demand. Geopolitical tensions also added to volatility after Donald Trump imposed new tariffs on countries supplying oil to Cuba and called for renewed nuclear talks with Iran. Trump also announced Kevin Warsh as his nominee to chair the Federal Reserve, ending months of uncertainty over U.S. monetary leadership. And the pressure wasn't limited to silver. Other precious metals also pulled back sharply. Platinum futures fell below $2,200 per ounce, retreating sharply from the record $2,878 reached earlier this week. The pullback was driven by profit-taking and a rebound in the U.S. dollar, which reduced demand for dollar-priced commodities and triggered broad liquidation across precious metals. Near-term demand signals have softened as elevated prices risk curbing auto-catalyst demand and encouraging substitution towards palladium. Still, the downside may be limited. Platinum markets remain structurally undersupplied, with South Africa accounting for roughly 70% of global output, facing ongoing production constraints linked to underinvestment and operational disruptions. And in agricultural markets, prices also eased as supply concerns competed with weather risks. Soybean futures slipped below $10.65 per bushel, easing from their highest levels since mid-December. A firmer U.S. dollar capped gains, while expectations of a record Brazilian harvest continued to weigh on prices. Brazil is expected to dominate global soybean exports through the first half of 2026, supported by ample supply and competitive pricing. Demand signals remain mixed, with China expected to favor Brazilian shipments, even after completing a large share of recent U.S. purchases. Meanwhile, hot and dry conditions in parts of Argentina remain in focus, offering some underlying support amid concerns about potential yield losses. And that's it for the international segment of the newscast. The news recap is coming up on the other side of the break.
Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. What you put in is what you get out. What you put in is what you get out. Yeah. Build up your body, boost up your brain. Take on the world now. Say bye-bye pain. Caribbean dreams, instant turmeric tea. Be good to you. Caribbean.
Silicon in there, all the intelligence is in there, miniaturized and wrapped in plastic with small contacts. The semiconductor scale